when the lane moving fast. Ayy, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss. Ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It's the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Tuesday, everybody. We are rolling solo today. Obviously, with it being a holiday week, you guys, we're going to be just doing one solo show today. We got a pre-recorded episode dropping on Thursday. And then on Friday, we're going to be doing our annual Red, White, and Better Than You episode with my man, Robert Bain. We've done that for like 4 years in a row. And it is all pro-America talk, like we've always been on this show. But just a heads up, that's what's going on for this week. Just a couple of quick announcements, you guys. Tomorrow, the Freight Coach newsletter drops. All right. It is just once a week. That's all we do. I don't like spamming people. You guys have day jobs. Most of you guys tune into this show, but it is just 100% about freight, right? So it's going to be a little market update, diesel prices, and some industry insights. That's all it's geared for, you guys, because at the end of the day, I just want to help educate the industry from my perspective, right? I don't know everything, but I know how to get businesses off the ground in running. I know how to grow revenue for companies, profitability up to a certain point. And we'll continue to expand that content as my business grows, because I really only like talking about what I've actually done on my own and not what I've done in somebody else's system, because Chris Jolly, the employee, vastly different than Chris Jolly, the business owner, and somebody out there who's trying to build their business up. Corey Buchan, happy Tuesday, my man. Good to see you. So yeah, if you guys want to get in on that weekly newsletter, just go to thefreightcoach.com. It'll auto prompt you to register. Again, I don't like spamming people. It's just once a week. I don't even know who signed up for it. So don't worry. I don't even know how to sell information. Even if I was offered, I wouldn't even know where to start. So that being said, you guys, we're also going to jump into my favorite segment, which is This Week in Freight, powered by my friends over at DAT. You guys, this is 100% viewer submitted. Okay. This is just a way for me to help you guys read freight markets, actually see what's going on in the market and how you can bring some stability out there to your customers. So today we're breaking down some reefer, Dallas, Texas to Des Moines, Iowa. No matter what, if you've never priced freight before, you guys, this is how I personally attack everything. The first thing I always look at when it comes down to any new lane or any lane that I'm moving for my customer is the miles. All right. What does that transit time look like? Because that affects the day of the week that it is moving. So this one's 697 miles. This is that gray area where a driver could get it done overnight if they're empty, fresh on hours, can pick up early. They could stretch it out to the next day. But my general rule of thumb is 500 miles in a 24-hour period for transit time. So if it's 1,000 miles, it's going to be pick Monday, deliver Wednesday. It's just a general rule of thumb that I personally use. Now let's look at this. All right. So no matter what, I always want to find that, because like we could sit here and focus on unpredictability and chaos and everything else. And it sounds really great on social media. And it sounds really great when you want to get a bunch of clicks out there on social media. But if you're actually moving freight like I am, I can't bring that to my customer and be like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to get you a truck. Do you know what it feels like out there? Do you know like they don't care. They're hiring me to bring them what? Stability. All right. They work with me because it's my job to solve that for them and bring that a little bit of calmness inside of their operation. So if I'm looking at this, all right, April to May, there was a massive spike that went on out there, but May, all of May, we're at the end of June. So we're going to consider like this is going to be in June. It's stabilized. All right. So if you're out there and you're pricing anything for your customer, now, I like the 90-day mark to show some stability, but we're through 60 days on a power lane and it's stabilized. So I want you to take that into consideration. Now, every single day of the week, it's not going to be the same. Okay. And you need to take that into consideration, specifically inside of refrigerated freight. There's 3 different classifications of pricing when it comes down to this, right? So if it's fresh, needing to be at like 50 degrees, for example, going to be vastly different than if it's frozen ice cream at -10 or -20, right? So it burns more diesel out there. So that's going to affect the price as you're going about this. So every single customer is unique in their own right. And then again, back to the miles, day of the week matter, right? If this has got to pick on a Thursday or a Friday to deliver Monday for whatever reason, if you've ever hauled food before, you understand that at times it's got to get off the docks and it's going to a major grocery retailer and they only take deliveries at 2 a.m. on a Monday, right? Like those are those very real scenarios that you find yourself in. So in a perfect world, this is going to pick up first come, first serve, 7 to 3, deliver first come, first serve, 7 to 3. But I operate in reality, and that's just not how a lot of this stuff works. So you got to take that into consideration as you're pricing this freight out there into your customers. So, but again, if I'm looking at this, this is a very stabilized lane. Now, is there going to be a price increase coming through to the 4th of July? Yes, damn near every lane you see out there is going to have a holiday upcharge. But on top of that, it's going to level back off out there at post 4th of July. And you need to be able to weather some of these short-term storms for your customers, because a lot of people, you guys, are going to be shutting down their operation tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's Wednesday, because Friday is being observed as the main holiday out there. No, like people are at the office on Thursday, but let's be honest, not a lot of people are going to be working. So that's where these opportunities are going to come through. And again, be the chaos or be the solution in all the chaos out there, because everybody relies on, it was a holiday week. This is going on, that's going on in the market. Do you see what's happening? Be the person who just executes. Okay. That's what you need to get to. That's where all the success is out there in this industry is when you can bring stability to your customers and your carriers. Be the voice of reason out there, be the professional, and find solutions for your customers, because I see a lot of stabilization out there on multiple lanes all across the country, multiple modes. I'm not saying that it's easy, but I'm just saying it's not as challenging as we try and make it out to be, because at times we put our own personal profits ahead of our customer relationships. It's a tough pill to swallow for people. But trust me, when you get those customers that are out there working repeatedly, especially on a power lane like Dallas to Des Moines, you're going to be good. You got to find that, be the stabilizer out there in the market when everybody's screaming chaos. So that is Dallas, Texas to Des Moines, Iowa. Again, it's stable. It's going to be a little bit of an uptick here around the 4th of July. It might not level off to the middle of July, but it's going to come back down and it's going to stabilize. And that is what we need to find out there. But let's get into some stuff here. Furthermore, I want to talk about that a little bit here before we break down some of the articles. It's very easy to kind of get caught up and think that that everything is going wrong out there in the market. And, I just look at it from a content perspective. No matter what, I'm going to continue to talk about like the solutions and like how do we execute in these environments. And, again, I don't know everything. I'm never going to preach to know everything out there. But what I'm going to do is let you guys know at least what works, what has worked for me personally, and what's currently working for me. Because it's not as hard as some people want you to think it is, right? Like there's a lot of stuff out there, you guys, that they're solving a problem or solve the problem, but they might have created said problem to create the solution. And now they're selling you on the need for that. And that's just not what actually happens. I look at it where my customers hire me to provide value to their operations and their customers, right? And there is ample opportunities that are out there for you, but this job is not as complex as people make it out to be. I'm not saying it's easy by any stretch of the imagination. Nothing is, but it's not as hard as people make it out to be. And I just look at it as there's different seasons of this stuff. And right now it's a little bit of a change out there for certain people, but for those of us who've been through market shifts before, it's business as usual, like I said, I've noted there was an initial spike out there in a lot of the lanes that we're running a couple of months ago, but it's since stabilized, right? And we don't move your prototypical power lanes, right? So we don't move a ton of those, like those Dallas to Des Moines or Dallas to Chicago's and stuff like that. We have a lot of secondary market freight. And when I say secondary market, I mean like we have a lot of our pickups that are like 100 to 200 miles outside of a major metropolitan area. So capacity is typically more limited in those markets compared to your power lanes, right? But capacity hasn't been the issue. All right. It hasn't at all. We found plenty of capacity. It just might not be the day of the week that our customer wants to ship it on at times, but we've been able to find capacity. And as a broker, your ability to find the right capacity for your customers, because again, I am convinced of this. There is a truck for every lane in America. It does not matter. It just takes a little bit more work to find out there. But again, your whole job as a broker should be finding that capacity that runs those lanes for your customers and then keep them off the load board, right? Reach out to them proactively, especially right now with everything that's going on with, identity theft and like all of that stuff. Once you find the carriers that are doing the right thing out there, you guys double down and triple down on working with them. They are worth their weight in gold. Yeah, it might hit your profit margin a little bit, but that's just a short-term thing because when you're able to execute when nobody else is, you guys, your customer throws opportunities your way. Okay. And it takes a long time to get there, and you're not entitled to the next opportunity. But there are ways to find those solutions out there, especially now when a lot of people want to say how chaotic it is. Again, I'm never going to say it's easy, but there are solutions. No matter what, it's just not as easy as it once was. And I think that's the biggest hang up for a lot of people. All right, let's jump in. Let's break down some articles here, you guys. You guys know what it is. All the links are going to be posted out there in the show notes. Please do your own research. And again, let's break it down here. First article, ttnews.com. Lawmakers introduce bill targeting overseas tampering of ELDs. The Ghost Truck Act calls for only people physically in North America to make changes. U.S. Representatives Dave Taylor and Greg Steube, have introduced the Ghost Truck Act, guarding hours of service oversight and stopping tampering by remote unofficial carrier keeper act. They love their acronyms. The bill aims to close a safety loophole by legally prohibiting anyone located outside of North America for making edits, annotations, or manual modifications to a truck driver's ELD. This legislation is a direct response to growing safety concerns where foreign-based dispatchers have manipulated driver logs from halfway across the world, forcing drivers to drive past federal hours of service limits, underpaying them, and escaping domestic law when catastrophic accidents occur. I always got to give a shout out to a lot of people out there. You guys, the NMFTA, all right, they have a bunch of free resources for you guys to be a part of. They come on the show once a month to talk about a lot of these things, but they got a lot. And we just talked about this on this last episode with Joe Orr and you guys. It was episode 1472. It was the telematics backdoor. It was the title, the ELD hacking the next frontier. We did an entire episode on this. All right. So it's episode 1472. Go back and listen to that as well. Because again, they have a bunch of resources out there for people to utilize today. Because sometimes, and by sometimes I mean all the time, bureaucracy moves very slow. Okay. So pay attention to that. Okay. So let's get back into it. The global loophole, this isn't just about simple administrative logging errors. Overseas bad actors are actively manipulating digital driver logs from thousands of miles away, completely out of reach of U.S. law enforcement. It also talks about the safety threat. The foreign dispatchers are weaponizing manual ELD edits to systematically overwork truck drivers, directly putting lives at risk on American highways through driver fatigue. So it's like, I look at some of these things and it's great, right? But like, what happens if there's a VPN? You know what I mean? Like if we're thinking downstream a little bit, and again, I haven't read every single, part of the bill that it was being introduced. I'm sure there's a ton of overspending to fund other people besides U.S. tax dollars or U.S. taxpayers. But if I'm looking at a lot of this, that's the first thing that comes to mind, right? How do we stop it even through like VPNs and everything? Because like there is plenty of ways to make it look like you are physically here in the United States when you're not actually here in the United States. I also look at it where, the dispatch services that are out there, like, again, I'm not saying all brokers are ethical or anything like that. I'm not defending, as a broker, I'm not going to defend broker behavior out there that I think is ridiculous. But it's like, I hope the FMCSA and the DOT really, really, really start paying attention to these dispatch services that are out there. Okay. I think that once a lot of the dust starts to settle here, they're going to be able to find a very straight line across the board that a lot of these fraudulent behaviors and bad actors are all operating under the exact same umbrella. Um, I look at it. So, because so with this mandate under the newly proposed bill, any and all ELD record edits or annotations would require the carrier, driver, or dispatcher to be physically located inside North America. Again, I want to see how are they going to close any and all loopholes to make themselves appear that they're in the United States, but they're not actually in there. And then the issue, because it goes on to say that, the issue has reached a critical boiling point. As of April 1st, the CVSA has implemented strict out-of-service orders specifically targeting drivers with tampered ELD setups. I mean, I look at it like this. If they show any, because I don't know if it's only within a certain amount of time where some of these, like the records of tampering, I don't know if they're stored for a certain amount of time, but I would love to see if there's any form of tampering at all, put them out of service, right? I just look at it where it's like, if you're operating ethically and legally, your record manipulation should be minimum at best. Like, I'm sure there's got to be something of like, oh, hey, I accidentally put this, record in there, and then they haven't able to a way to manually override that to, do whatever, right? Maybe the driver forgot to put himself on brake when he was on brake. Stressful things happen on the road. Like, I get some of those things, but like, there's probably some pretty egregious things that they found out there to stop them. And then again, like, I look at it where, okay, because it does go on. I look at it from this perspective. I hope that there is a way to only allow, because like, if I'm thinking like a criminal, right? If I'm thinking, if I own a trucking company, I want to manipulate my logs and I want to do all of this stuff, how hard would it be to register multiple ELD devices inside of one truck and then just switch between them, right? Like, I'm not saying that this happened back in the day, but I have heard of plenty of stories of multiple paper logbooks inside of a truck at times. What stops somebody from having multiple electronic login devices inside of their truck at any given moment? Again, I'm not a criminal, but like, that's where my mind kind of goes with this, right? So it's like, if they're going to be able to find the loophole to close with one device, what stops somebody from just having 5 or 6, right? If there's a will, there's a way, right? The fact that I'm thinking of this almost guarantees that all of the criminals out there who are breaking the law are doing or thinking of some way, shape, or form to get around this, right? So it's like, I don't know if there is a way to limit it to one ELD device per VIN number that's out there. And again, then what stops somebody from having multiple VIN numbers associated with the truck, right? Like, the possibilities for people to manipulate these things are endless, right? And I am the last person that wants government control and more government oversight on anything. But I look at something like this because, like, I've been saying this for well over a year, and I know the tone out there is starting to change. Like, this is a matter of national security when it comes to our supply chain, where they should be, if you're going to have a private ELD company and you're going to own that, you should have to go through strict digital oversight through the FMCSA to ensure that, like, none of your stuff is able to be manipulated out there. I think that is probably the next iteration of this. And, again, if you're from the FMCSA and you're listening, because I know you guys listen to this show because you've been on this show, I think you guys might want to start looking at how much authority, like, through these dispatch companies that are out there, unbeknownst to maybe some of their clients, that their authority is being used if other authorities that they manage, for example, are out of service or have violations. I'm saying this as somebody who takes inbound calls from said dispatch services at times, and the amount of, oh, that MC is not good, try this MC. It's very alarming how much this happens. Okay. So it's like, this is a great start, but let's start looking downstream a little bit here with how they can continue to manipulate these logs. And if we're going to look for safer highways and stuff like that, if you're involved in the freight transaction at all, i.e. dispatch services, independent dispatch services, they need to be regulated just like the brokerage community is regulated. I'm never going to vary away from that stance that's out there. I think that's where the Wild West is able to happen. And I think it starts and stops with that. And then further downstream, I wouldn't be surprised when the dust settles that they're going to be able to create a digital footprint between a handful of ELD providers, a handful of insurance companies, and a handful of trucking companies that are all connected and owned by the same group of criminal organizations. I don't know how long this is going to take, but I think in due time, it's going to become very, very evident that they're all operating under the exact same umbrella. They're all the ELD companies, the insurance companies, the trucking companies. They're all going to be operating under the exact same umbrella. They're going to have a complete digital footprint that's out there, and it's all going to be coming out in due time. I truly feel that way. And then furthermore, it's going to be the digital footprint's going to lead to state-sponsored terrorism. I truly feel like they're going to come up with this. They're going to connect the dots eventually. I don't know when it's going to happen, but eventually it's all going to come to light that it's going to be a handful of people that are committing the majority of this chaos that's going on in the industry right now. But pay attention to a lot of that stuff, you guys. If it doesn't seem right, it's not right. Okay? I just trust your guts in this one. Next article you guys we're going to be breaking down is from FreightWaves, and it's California Highway Patrol recovers $2.2 million in stolen cargo from an Anaheim warehouse. Let's see here. The raid resulted in the recovery of $2.2 million in stolen consumer merchandise linked to multiple ongoing cargo theft investigations. Among the goods were highly valuable commercial electronics, including meta server switchers, alongside of 22,000 boxes of golf balls and massive quantities of high-end hobby remote control merchandise. Let me see here. Switches the fencing hub rail. Criminal networks are now utilizing standard commercial real estate warehouses as central hub distribution operations to process, sort, and fence stolen property at scale. And again, we had talked about this on a previous episode where we went very in depth on this. Again, this is, from the last article we were breaking down, look into the commercial warehousing. I wouldn't be surprised if they're able to piece together it's just a handful of people that are out there. It looks very massive, but I think their ability to gain this freight, I'm sure there's some sophisticated methodologies that they're using, but I also look at the low-hanging fruit aspect of things when it comes down to a lot of this stuff. But so it does talk about a silent investigation. I'm gonna get back to my point here. And then the broker ship or blind spot, high value goods like tech components and luxury merchandise are vanishing right out of there. I look at, if you're going to be vetting a carrier, I think that it's very evident now what locations are shipping certain merchandise, right? And back down to the low-hanging fruit. I think it's not that hard to find out who's shipping what out of certain locations. Like, some of you guys post the commodity in the fucking posting. Like, you're literally putting a target on your back at that point. And it takes 5 seconds for me to Google that commodity in that city, and it pops up 10 warehouses that might be shipping that, right? Like, it's not that hard to infiltrate this stuff, you guys. It's really not. It's very basic. And this is why, again, back to the whole overly complex solutions for what I think might be a kind of a simplistic problem is even on top of that, people are, because like this happens inside of my company, and I've seen this happen inside of my company where people are now, they are stealing the identities of shippers, trying to get brokers to come in and do certain freight moves for them. That's another financial crime. And but like, again, downstream, I think people are overlooking what a couple $1,000s would do for somebody, right? To some of these high-end value, locations where it's like, if you're looking at a shipping manager or somebody who's loading trucks on the dock, and you just go in there and pick up one of these loads and you befriend these guys over time, I mean, a couple $1,000s cash does a lot for certain people, like I'm not saying this is the only way they do it, but I think that people are overlooking what a couple grand does from an information standpoint, right? Where it's like, if you build up that familiarity, or you're staking out a place and you see, I look at that because it's like, I know the steps that we have in place for freight. And I know with a lot of the high value goods, because like I've moved all the high value goods out there, right? I've moved the high valued meat. I've moved the high valued energy drinks, sodas, all of that stuff that come along, where there's a lot of security measures in place that need to be followed. But I know that doesn't happen everywhere. And I think it's very evident where a lot of this stuff is shipping out of at this point in time. And I think that even though the broker can, or the broker can put all the steps in place to protect our customers' freight, I think that they might be overlooking a critical step of like what an envelope of cash or a consistent envelope of cash would do to an individual from an information standpoint, right? Like, I mean, there was just an article here recently in Northern Arizona about a truck stop that, a bunch of trailers were broken into. At that one, again, like all they need is a trailer number, you guys, or all they need to do is follow this stuff out there. Like, it's complex, but I think like we're overlooking the simplicity of it at times. And I know that law enforcement's all over this. There's a bunch of people that are all over this, but don't overlook that because it seems too simple, right? Of somebody going in there, and whether it's $5 grand, 10 grand, I don't know I'm just throwing arbitrary amounts out there. Don't overlook what that would do for somebody. From an information standpoint, right? Hey, this will never come back to you. I'll give you $10,000. I just need one trailer number, right? And depending on how rough of a time somebody's having, that could be life-changing money for them. And, I look at it where it's starting with a lot of people posting commodities that are out there. And then once they're in, or, just a simple Google search, what that can do, target the person, like, I just think that there's a way that's going on about that. I hope that makes sense, but like, that's just kind of where my mind goes with this, because it's like, we're seeing millions and millions of dollars that are coming out there, and not everybody doesn't know what they're doing, right? Like, there's a ton of technology that says a lot of these things. What's stopping somebody from just walking in, or, you're befriending them, or you follow them to a restaurant, you start befriending, like the old mob movies, like I look at that as I think that that's still very prevalent. Maybe not, maybe I'm wrong, but like, I think that that's a component that people need to look at some point. But that's going to be it for today, you guys. We got guests on tomorrow, and then we'll be back on Friday. We got a pre-recorded episode dropping in there for you guys. But yeah, pay attention, you guys. Be vigilant. It's holiday week. Find out where your drivers are parking, where they're staying. Protect your customers' freight, and try and enjoy this holiday weekend. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank that show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to say it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, and